Why is it that so many people begin to quietly decline after the age of 80? Even those who seemed mentally sharp and physically active just a few years earlier often start to fade. Most folks chalk it up to genes or luck, assuming that what happens after 80 is entirely out of their control. But that's only part of the picture. In this video, we're going to explore 5 lesser-known reasons often missed and rarely discussed that shed light on why staying healthy and vibrant after 80 can be such a challenge. These aren't the typical culprits like diet, smoking, or lack of exercise. No, these are more subtle, deeply rooted issues that can creep in unnoticed, even among those who've lived wisely. The encouraging part, once you recognize them, there are ways to take action. So if you've ever wondered what quietly undermines longevity beyond 80, and what steps you can take to protect yourself while time is still on your side, stay with me until the end. These 5 hidden factors might just reshape how you think about aging before it's too late. Let's begin. Number 1. The slow disappearance of everyday social contact. One of the earliest and most underestimated reasons why older adults may not thrive after 80 is something called the loss of microsocial interactions. These aren't your deep emotional relationships or family gatherings as though those remain important. Instead, it's the tiny day-to-day exchanges that once filled your life without effort. Remember those quick greetings with the postal worker, that light conversation with the cashier at the market, the friendly wave to a neighbor walking by. These small, ordinary moments weren't just pleasant. They played a crucial role in calming your nervous system, maintaining your sense of belonging, and keeping your social instincts sharp and engaged. But after 80, these brief connections often begin to fade. Many older adults stop running errands themselves and rely on deliveries or family help. They shy away from chats, teeting with strangers, especially if their hearing has declined. Or they give up their walks due to chilly weather or unsteady joints. And as those small encounters vanish, so does something far more essential: vitality. What's striking is that most people don't even realize what's happening. They believe they're simply streamlining life, cutting out the unnecessary. But in reality, they're eliminating the very kinds of low-stake social engagement that spark the brain, lift the spirit, and remind the body that it still belongs in the flow of daily life. It doesn't take much. I once knew a man named Harold in his late 80s who stayed mentally sharp simply because he walked to the same cafe every morning. He'd greet the same barista chat with the regulars and nod to a familiar face or two on the way. That tiny 5-minute ritual wasn't just routine. It gave shape to his day. It kept him connected. It helped him feel acknowledged. And when that rhythm disappears, the body responds. Even subtle loneliness acts as a stress signal to the brain. It alters hormone patterns, increases inflammation, and gradually wears down the immune system. Staying alive is one thing. Staying alive and truly engaged, that's where the difference lies. But more significantly, those missing social moments gradually shrink the brain's intricate networks that govern memory, focus, and emotional balance. To put it simply, they make you feel older more quickly. So if you've noticed you're speaking to fewer people throughout the day, skipping small outings, avoiding casual chats, or beginning to feel unseen in your own neighborhood, it's a sign to turn that around, because those small connections, even the fleeting ones, are sending a quiet but powerful message to your brain and your body. You still belong. You're still needed. And that sense of belonging is one of the strongest natural remedies for staying not only alive, but fully present in mind and soul. Number 2. Excessive caution leading to inactivity. Another quiet threat to long life after 80 is something that often masquerades as common sense: being careful. And while a degree of caution is wise, there's a tipping point where it shifts into overprotection. And when that happens, the effects may not show immediately, but they compound with time. It usually begins with a well-meaning choice. Maybe there was a close call on the stairs, or a moment of unsteadiness walking across the lawn. So, you start scaling back. You skip walks. You stop reaching for lower drawers or climbing into the back seat of a car. You find yourself sitting more and staying seated longer. Those around you mean well. They say take it slow or better safe than sorry. Before long, you've designed a lifestyle that feels secure but lacks movement. Here's the part many don't realize. When motion stops, so does strength. And it's not limited to your arms and legs. It affects balance, coordination, and the body's inner systems of stability. Think of your body not as a machine that preserves itself by resting, but as a living ecosystem that must be used to stay alive. When movement dwindles, decline begins. The first signs often show up in the core. Most people underestimate how essential those deep abdominal and back muscles are. They support standing, walking, lifting, even the simple act of rising from a chair. Leave those muscles idle and they could begin to shrink. As they do, balance suffers. You feel less steady and the fear grows stronger. I once knew a gentleman named Leonard, age 82, who gave up his nightly walks after slipping during a drizzle. He wasn't injured, just shaken. But that one moment led to a habit of avoidance. He went from strolling the neighborhood to spending most evenings in front of the TV. Within half a year, he lost nearly 10-ton lumps of muscle. His legs felt weak, unsteady. His physician expressed concern, but by then, the loss had already taken root. Leonard didn't slow down because he was frail. He became frail because he slowed down. Now, I'm not saying you should ignore genuine risks. There are wise ways to stay safe. Use handrails, wear supportive shoes, clear obstacles from your path. Even use a walking stick if it helps you feel grounded. But there's a difference between managing risks and being ruled by them. When fear decides how much you move, your body starts forgetting how to move altogether. So, if you've realized you're pulling back, not because your body won't allow it, but because of fear about what might happen, it's time to take notice. Ask yourself honestly, am I protecting my safety, or am I slowly retreating from life? Because living well after 80 isn't just about avoiding injury. It's about continuing to move even if you need to do it more cautiously, more slowly, or with more intention. Movement reminds the body that it still has a role to play. It keeps your systems running, your brain attentive, and your heart beating with direction. And if you're still with me and finding these ideas meaningful, comment number 2 below so I know you're following along. If you haven't subscribed yet, take a moment to do that now and tap the bell icon so you don't miss new videos like this one. Your support means a lot and helps us keep creating content that educates and encourages. Now, let's keep going. Number 3. Disrupted sleep cycles caused by irregular light exposure. Deep within you is a quiet timekeeper, not a ticking clock, but a biological rhythm that influences nearly everything. Your energy, mood, digestion, immune defenses, and even how your brain resets during the night are all guided by this rhythm. And after 80, that rhythm, your circadian cycle becomes more fragile. One of the biggest disruptors, too little natural light during the day and too much artificial light at night. You might not spot it right away. Maybe you've started napping more in the afternoons, especially by the window when it's warm. Maybe you've stopped stepping outside as often, particularly during colder or cloudy seasons. Or maybe you keep the television on into the late hours or read under bright lights well past sunset. These changes can feel small, but together they send mixed signals to your body about when it should be active and when it should rest. Your internal rhythm depends heavily on light. Bright sunlight in the morning cues your brain to wake up, energize, and activate vital processes. As evening approaches, darkness tells your system to wind down and release melatonin, the hormone that helps usher in deep restorative sleep. But if you're not getting enough daylight, or if you're bathing in artificial brightness late at night, your body becomes confused. The effects: you might struggle to drift off to sleep or stay asleep. You might wake up still feeling tired, then after a full night in bed. You could notice your energy dipping at odd times or your focus becoming less sharp. And over time, poor sleep does more than leave you groggy. It disrupts your immune response, affects emotional stability, and can even raise the risk of memory problems and cognitive decline. And there's another issue: vitamin D. Sunlight helps your skin produce this essential nutrient, which supports bone strength, muscle function, and immune health. But after 80, your skin becomes less efficient at making vitamin D. So, regular exposure to sunlight becomes even more important. Without it, your physical resilience can begin to erode in ways that are hard to detect until it's too late. I once had a conversation with a woman named Margaret, who was 84 and had been feeling unusually drained and mentally foggy. Her lab results came back normal. Her eating habits hadn't changed, and she wasn't on any new prescriptions. What changed everything? Her doctor suggested something surprisingly simple. Spent 20 minutes each morning sitting near a window, with the blinds fully open, and avoid screens at least an hour before bedtime. Within 2 weeks, her sleep quality improved. Her memory became sharper. Her outlook on life lifted noticeably. It wasn't a miracle drug. It was exposure to light. So if you've been spending most of your time inside curtains drawn tight, or if your evenings revolve around phone or television screens, it's time to make a change. Step outside within an hour of waking, even if it's just to sit on your porch for 5 minutes. Let your eyes and skin take in the daylight. As evening comes, begin to dim the lights around you. Give your body the signal that it's time to wind down. These soft, natural rhythms aren't just soothing, they're essential. What many people fail to realize is that aging isn't only about physical wear. The body also declines when its internal systems fall out of sync. Bringing back those natural cues like sleep routine helps realign your internal clock. It tells your body, even at 80, we're still on track. We're still living. We're still present. Number 4. Emotional suppression due to grief and disconnection. By the time most people reach their 80s, they've experienced more loss than younger generations can often comprehend. A partner, a brother or sister, a lifelong companion, perhaps even a child. And while friends and neighbors might offer kind condolences, what often goes unspoken is the deep compounding nature of those losses, not just emotionally, but physically. What many older adults go through in their 80s isn't only sorrow, it's emotional suppression. It's the slow, ongoing practice of bottling up sadness rather than expressing it, of smiling when you feel hollow because you believe you should be used to it by now, or because it feels like there's no one left who would truly understand what that person meant to you. But here's something that needs to be said. The body doesn't forget. When grief is left unspoken, when it isn't processed or shared or fully felt, it doesn't just fade. It lingers stored within. Over time, that hidden emotional weight starts to show up physically. It can weaken your immune defenses, disrupt digestion, disturb your rest. It can alter hormonal balance and keep your nervous system locked in a subtle, ongoing stress response. And what makes it especially difficult is that it often doesn't show on the surface. You might look composed, you might say, everything's fine. But if your shoulders feel a bit heavier, if your breath seems shorter, if your inner light feels dimmer than it once was, grief might be the reason, even if you haven't named it in years. I recall an older gentleman named Charles, 86, who had recently lost his wife of 6 decades. He rarely showed emotion, claimed he was coping well, said crying wasn't really his style. But over the next year, his weight dropped. He stopped attending the community gatherings he once enjoyed, and he began struggling with restless sleep. Not because of a medical condition, but because his body had been carrying grief it never had the chance to release. The thing is, emotional pain doesn't have to be loud or dramatic to cause harm. And by the time it begins to impact your physical health, the link isn't always easy to trace. What helps people live well into their 80s and beyond often isn't just physical fitness. It's emotional release. It's the ability to safely express sorrow, fear, frustration, and longing. To say things like, "I still miss him," or "that still hurts," or "I feel alone sometimes," without being dismissed or made to feel weak. That kind of honesty gives the heart room to breathe. And when the heart finds that freedom, the rest of the body begins to recover too. This is why people who age well often have some form of emotional outlet. It might be a close friend they trust completely. It could be a notebook where they write down their thoughts. It might be their faith, their local church group, or a counselor who helps them sort through years of unspoken burdens. The method doesn't matter as much as the act itself. What's brought into the open can be healed. What's hidden begins to harm. So, if you've been keeping something inside, not because you want to, but because you didn't know where to turn, it might be time to create space for it. Not just to ease emotional pain, but to extend your life. Because the truth is, the heart can only carry so much before it starts to slowly retreat. And if you want to not only reach your 80s, but truly live there, your heart has to feel free to feel. If you're still with me and these insights have resonated, drop a comment with the number 4 below so I know you're still watching. And if you haven't subscribed yet, go ahead and do that now. Make sure to turn on the bell so you won't miss the next video. Your support helps us continue to create helpful and uplifting content. Let's keep going. Number 5. The slow fading of daily purpose. One of the most subtle yet powerful reasons people begin to decline after 80 is the quiet loss of something we rarely notice until it's missing daily purpose. Not grand life meaning or a lofty mission, but the small everyday kind, the kind that gives shape to your morning and meaning to your afternoon. Purpose can be simple, like opening the curtains before the sun gets too strong, or filling the bird feeder for the sparrows that visit each morning. It might be sending a note to your grandson or tightening a loose doorknob. But when those little tasks disappear, when you wake up without a reason to rise and go to bed with nothing new to think about, a subtle decline begins internally. Something starts to go dim. The body responds to the mind. And when the mind can no longer find a reason to keep moving forward, the body begins to slow down with it. Hunger fades, activity decreases, says, and all those finely tuned systems that once maintained your health begin to idle. Not because they're malfunctioning, but because they're waiting for a reason to re-engage. What makes this change difficult to catch is how gradually it sets in. It sneaks in through the quiet. Maybe your weekly card night stopped happening. Maybe your Bible study group disbanded. Maybe your children visit less often, or that volunteer position you loved ended when joint pain made it harder to move around. You tell yourself it's all just part of getting older, but deep down you can sense it. Days beginning to blur, each one a little quieter than the one before. I once knew a woman named Edith, 88, who seemed more vibrant than many people decades younger. She didn't have a lot of money. Her health wasn't perfect. She didn't have a large family around her. But there was one thing: she never lost her daily rhythm. Every Monday, she wrote encouraging notes to elderly members of her church who couldn't leave home. Every Thursday, she cooked soup and froze containers for a nearby shelter. And each afternoon, around 4:00 p.m., she sat by her window and watched the neighborhood kids walk home from school. She knew their names. She waved to them, and they waved back. It wasn't fancy. It wasn't dramatic, but it gave her day shape. It gave her heart movement. It gave her life continuity. And that's the real key. Nobody really tells you this, but the body keeps going as long as it believes it's still needed. Purpose, even the smallest kind, is like fuel. It tells your body to keep healing your organs, to keep working your mind, to stay engaged. When you begin to feel like you no longer matter, like your presence doesn't impact anyone or anything, your inner flame starts to flicker. That's why older adults who live beyond 80 with energy and grace almost always have something anchoring them. It might be tending a garden, caring for a pet, writing in a journal, calling someone every morning, or simply saying a quiet prayer when the day begins. It's not about how big the task is. It's about consistency, about knowing there's a reason to get out of bed each morning. So if you've been feeling untethered, like your days have lost form or meaning, don't brush that off. It's not just a passing mood. It's your body and spirit calling out for rhythm, connection, and purpose once again. Because in the end, living long isn't only about a beating heart. It's about a heart that wants to beat. And it's that quiet, determined desire to stay engaged, to remain connected, to continue mattering that helps carry people past 80 and into days that still feel alive. Final thoughts. As we close this video, I want to leave you with a gentle but important reminder. Most people don't fade after 80 because of one single event. It's not a fall, a medical report, or a birthday that suddenly flips the switch. It's the gradual fading of routines, relationships, and reasons to care. Often these shifts happen so slowly that you don't notice until your inner spark feels dimmer than it once did. But the beauty is just as that drift was quiet and gradual. The way back can be gentle and steady too. One short walk outside. One spontaneous chat with someone at the market. One gentle stretch when you wake up. One small thing you do today, not out of obligation, but because it brings a sense of purpose, a touch of connection, a bit of meaning. That's how the tide begins to turn. So, take a moment to reflect on and the 5 unexpected reasons we explored today. Which one caught you off guard? Which one struck a little too close to home? And most importantly, which one are you ready to respond to even in a small, simple way? Starting now. Because here's the truth. You have more influence over your aging journey than you may realize. Not to prevent aging itself, but to reshape how you experience it. If you're willing to stay mindful of those subtle changes, if you're willing to defend your daily rhythms, hold on to your sense of purpose, and allow yourself to feel the emotions you've been carrying, then the path ahead can still be rich and meaningful. You won't just arrive at 80, you'll thrive beyond it fully and intentionally on your own terms. Thank you for spending this time with us. We'd truly love to hear your thoughts. Leave a comment below and tell us one insight that stood out to you and how you plan to apply it to your own life. Your voice matters here, so please don't hesitate to share. Reading your reflections encourages us deeply and keeps us going. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with someone who might need it. Your support allows us to continue making thoughtful, inspiring content just for you. Thanks again for watching, and we can't wait to see you in the next.